Should you teach your yoga class ever like a workshop? Stopping, starting, demonstrating, communicating, asking questions, going back and forth between you and the students. Should you ever do this? Is this beneficial? There are some yoga teachers out there that say absolutely not. A class is a class. A workshop is a workshop. If someone wants to go deeper into a pose, they want to learn more about it, they want to dive in, they want to get here, they want to get there, they go to a workshop. Now, well, I understand the sentiment behind that and the idea that a class should be not interrupted, but people come, they want their 60 minutes or their 75 or their 90, whatever that time frame is, and they want to move through that flow and that sequence and that journey and not have it be stop, start, interruption. I understand that, and that's a great ideal. However, let's look at reality. The reality of most people who practice yoga is that they will not go to workshops. They will go to classes. So when do you expect them to be able to learn these things? Is it only those people that seek out the workshops, that prioritize the workshops and make time for those things, that actually have the, the privilege or deserve to learn these extra things and to go deeper? I don't believe so. Just looking at the modern person of today who's practicing yoga. Time, right? Like time is something that people are so pressed for. And we can talk about forever the fact that, well, if you don't want to put in the time, then you don't get to go deeper. And I totally understand that and I totally agree with that. But to a point, if you notice that something you are consistently teaching in your class is just not being received by your students in a way where, you want it to be received, that you're intending for it to be received. They're not really picking up what you're putting down. They're not getting it. They're struggling. You're seeing that they're grimacing or they're confused or they're looking lost or defeated. Then why not stop the class and approach it more like a workshop? Again, it doesn't have to be the whole time. Just for a short time is super impactful and powerful. And you don't have to do this in all of your classes that you teach. You don't have to do it in every class. Say you only teach the same group of people once a week or the same class once a week. You don't have to stop every single time. However, there are going to be times when you can see people really need a little bit more assistance here. People need a little bit more information. They need a little bit more of a visual. They need a little bit more of a comparison and a contrast. I can see they might have questions. I want to ask them questions. And it is totally okay for you to do that. And in fact, I would say it is necessary when we consider the modern yogi of today. Again, that is someone who is likely not going to attend a workshop. And so if we keep all that information and we go, well, no, I'm not going to share this or I'm not going to share that, I'm just going to call the pose or I'm just going to make sure I keep the flow of the class, then we're actually depriving those people who, for whatever reason, whether it's time, whether it's money, whatever it is, that they're not attending a workshop to go deeper into some of these topics, we're depriving those people of being able to really go into their practice in a more optimal and empowering way for them. And that's why I really believe it is so important to definitely teach your class workshop style when you think that it is appropriate. Now, I love doing this and I find that it's so beneficial, but I've definitely been on the receiving end of students who haven't loved that and who have felt, and this is very few, the majority of students are like, oh, I loved how you stopped and we broke that down. And I never knew that that was possible. I never knew I could try that in my body. I didn't know that, this is what maybe the shape could be. And then this is what I was doing. Or I didn't know that I could explore the pose in that way. And it's very, very rare and very few people who say, and in fact, they probably don't often say it, but I have had that feedback that I just really like having the flow to the class and they just want to go and they don't want to stop and they just want to get into it. You know what? Win some, lose some. You are not going to please everyone. So it really comes back to your intentions as a teacher. And I know for me, it is really important for me to empower my students so that they are not constantly relying on me for the answers and they're not constantly relying on other teachers for the answers. Yes, they're seeking guidance, but they're constantly then coming back to knowing that they actually have the answers that are going to be best for them in their body. And it's only through, again, like a workshop style approach, not only through that, but mainly through that approach, will you be able to provide them with discovering those answers. So yeah, you might have some people who really just want to have the flow and they just don't want to be interrupted, for sure. And again, you don't have to do this every class that you teach, but the majority of people are going to really get a lot from it. And what you're doing then is you're actually equipping them. You're giving them the tools that they need to make informed choices, to make choices that align with their personal needs. And if you as a teacher have the intentions of helping your students connect deeper to their personal needs, and not only connect to their needs, but then respond to their needs in a way that is in alignment with their intentions, if those are your intentions as a teacher, I think it's absolutely necessary to teach your yoga class, when you feel that it's needed, workshop style. So some of the things that you can do, again, is to just pause the class and talk to what you're noticing. I will often say, hey, I'm noticing there's a few of you guys, or a lot of you guys, or most of you guys are approaching this pose like this, or approaching this movement like this. And for me, I will say something like, this isn't wrong, but the intention that we're looking for, and since we're working on this specific target area, see if you can approach it a little bit more like this. And then I just give them a chance to give it a try. And then I'll follow that up by saying, and notice how this feels in your body. And if this feels like it's something that's valuable for you, it might be hard or it might be easy, but is it valuable? Then you can incorporate that into your class. Or I'll pause and say, I just want you to try this movement again. And then we're going to pause at this one particular point, because sometimes we go through the movements and then there's a little bit of this autopilot going on for students. So I'll get them to do the movement. And then I'll say, and then we're going to pause at this one specific point. So I'll cue it, and then I'll say, okay, now just hold it there. And then notice, is your, shoulder forwards or backwards? Is your pelvis forwards or backwards? Are your feet this way or that way? And how does it feel when you shift it like that? So it's bringing this heightened level of awareness into the classes. And isn't that really what we're doing? Aren't we going through a yoga practice to become more aware of ourselves, of others, of the world around us, of our place in life? But, all that outer stuff needs to first start with the inner stuff in the inner world. And we use asana as a tool to connect inward, to help our students connect inward. And if we are constantly calling a pose and never stopping or giving our students the opportunity to reflect and to go, oh, well, how does it feel when I do that? Oh, I wasn't aware that maybe I was putting my shoulder here when really I could be putting my shoulder there, and knowing the difference between these two things. So this is more workshop style stuff that I personally like to do, and you will have your own way of offering workshop style. But, it's stopping, pausing, bringing awareness to certain movements, and then giving your students, the choice about what it is that they want to do. And this is super powerful in getting them to connect deeper to themselves, fulfilling the purpose of yoga, that union, that connection, right? It starts here. It starts here first. And I mean, here is the same as out there. It's all the same, but the tangible sense of connection that we can provide our students with when it comes to asana is, yes, to stop our class every now and then and to break things down workshop style, to get our students to become more aware, more mindful of themselves, of the way they're moving their bodies, of what they're choosing to do, of the options that they're taking, so that they can build that awareness, they can build that deeper connection to themselves, and again, fulfill that purpose of connection that comes with a yoga practice. So there are many different ways that you can do that, and I've only just explained a few ways, when it comes to teaching your class workshop style. But it's lots of, trial and error. Test this out, see how it feels. Okay, now we're going to try that, see how it feels. Now we're going to try that and see how it feels. Now I want you to move through the flow and pick one of those ones that felt the best for you, or that felt the most difficult or challenging, or that felt the most valuable. So these are different ways that we can teach our class workshop style. We can also ask questions and get a response. Now, who in the room, when we try it this way, really likes this way? That's the way they love it. You see people put up their hand. Now we try this other way. Who in the room really likes this way? They put up their hand. Who in the room really likes this way? Sometimes you see everyone likes a really similar way. Sometimes you see it's spread out across the board. So this is just really great insight for you as a teacher and then awareness for your students as well, so that they can actually experiment and explore and be curious and use their physical practice as a tool for personal empowerment, body autonomy, so that they have an accessible practice that is their own. They own their practice. They're not always relying on you as a teacher or any other teachers, but instead they're really taking their power into their own hands and reclaiming ownership of their practice. Teaching your yoga class workshop style is absolutely necessary when you feel that it is appropriate as a teacher. And so long as you are supported in doing so, whether you're at a studio or you're at a gym or whoever you're teaching for, if it's not for yourself, so long as you have that support, and I'll just go into that for a moment anyways, maybe you don't have the support, ask that person who you're teaching for if you can open up a dialogue around that. You know, why is that? Why is it not okay? And even bring up some of these points. You know, most of our students are not actually going to go to a workshop. And maybe in some rare circumstances or communities, yeah, lots of the students go to workshops, but most of them are not. So you can bring up these points and you can ask the person who you are teaching for, you know, what their perspective is. I'm really curious as to why you have the perspective that you'd rather that we didn't bring up these workshop approaches in the class. And then further to that, you can bring up the point that it actually can help with student retention. Yes, of course, there's going to be some of those people that just want that kind of flow, right? That just want that journey, not stopping and starting. However, it is actually very beneficial for most students, and they will love it if you do teach something workshop style, which can help with student retention because they can avoid injury. Yeah, that's a big one. They can connect deeper to what it is that they need. They can deeper understand what it is that, you know, they're trying to do. And they become more invested in their practice, which makes them more of a long-term client or customer. So that is also something that you can bring up to whoever you might be teaching for. So yes, I understand the idea that sometimes we just want this flow and we want to have this process and this journey. We don't want that to be interrupted. I get that. That feels good. There's a beauty, there's a therapy to that. However, knowing that most modern day yogis are not going to be attending workshops, so we can't wait for the workshop for them to get it. So as teachers, I believe that it is very important to be able to offer and educate and inform our students of some of these things in the class environment. And sometimes it's absolutely necessary to teach your class like a workshop in order to achieve that.